Hello everyone. Dear students, we are now going to study the question answer sessions on agriculture in India, and please remember this one will be studied in two different parts. In our part 1 we will be basically looking at characteristics of Indian agriculture, as well as we will be also looking at the some of the major crops that are grown during this time. Okay. So let us now turn our attention to the question number 1. Dear student, if the question is asked in board examination that what is agriculture? Please remember, agriculture is tilling of the land, the plowing of the land or tilling of the land, where after tilling or after plowing the land, the crops are grown. So process of growing the crops after tilling the land is termed as agriculture. However, in modern times, agriculture also refers to growing the crops and rearing animals together. Dear student, our question number 2 is explain the importance of agriculture. Especially when we are talking about it, we are talking about importance of agriculture in India. Dear students, our point number 1 is that Indian agriculture provides employment to almost 67% people directly or indirectly. That is our point number 1. Point number 2, it provides the largest amount of um, contribution to India's national income. Okay, so it is the largest contributor of income in our country. Point number 3, agriculture also provides raw material to the industries. For example, sugar industry obtain its raw material, okay, from sugarcane. Point number 4, agriculture also provides food to the ever increasing population of India. Point number 5, agriculture also plays important role in export of our Indian products. Okay, so in this way we find various uh, importances of Indian agriculture, dear students. If the question in examination is for 2 marks, you will have to write down minimum 2 points, and if the question is for 3 marks, then of course you will be writing over there 3 points for this question. Our question number 3 now. How does Indian agriculture contributes to national income? Dear students, we have to write down that Indian agriculture directly and indirectly contributes to Indian national income. Our point number 1. India's almost 27% of tax comes from agriculture. This is our point number 1. Point number 2, by exporting Indian agricultural products, India earns a huge amount of foreign exchange. Point number 3, agriculture also provides raw material to the industries, and in turn those industries also then contribute to the national income. So directly or indirectly we find that Indian agriculture is providing or contributing to the national income. Please remember, uh, our railway transport as well as road transport also gets tremendous amount of products from Indian agriculture to get transported, and by that way also even they are also getting benefited. Our question number 4 is, what is the role of agriculture in employment generation? Please remember, agriculture accounts for 67% of employment in our country. That means India's highest number of employment is generated by agriculture. Point number 2, that the industries which depend upon agriculture, like sugar industry, jute industry, cotton textile industry, oil extracting industry, these industries also depend on agriculture. So therefore, the workers over there are indirectly depending upon agriculture. And in this way, we get to know that agriculture contributes very largely in the employment generation of our country. Dear student, the question number 5: how does agriculture has become significant sector for earning foreign exchange? Please remember, we have to write down that India is one of the largest producer of agricultural products. Okay, after satisfying the needs of our people, India is in a position to export lot of food grains and as well as cash crops like cotton and tea. And by exporting them, our country earns a huge amount of foreign exchange. Please remember, India's agricultural products include cotton, coffee, tea, rice, sugarcane, etc. Okay, so we are very large producer of them, and by exporting them, our country does get lot of foreign exchange. Our next question, dear student, here is: what is the role of agriculture in industrial development? Okay, so answer should be that many industries like sugar industry, cotton, textile industry, then we have jute industry, then oil industry, that means edible oil industry. They all depend upon agriculture for their raw material. Besides them, other industries like fruit jam making or juice making industry like mango juice or any juice, dear student, fruit juice, they also depend upon agriculture. Silk industry also depends upon agriculture because silkworms are basically grown on mulberry plant that are specially grown. So in this way we find many industries depend upon agriculture and their development has possible again because of Indian agriculture. Dear students, our next question is: what is subsistence type of farming? Your answer is: it is a farming where crops are grown in order to fulfill the needs of family. Okay, needs of family, and if any surplus is left, that surplus is sold in a market. That kind of agriculture is called as subsistence type of agriculture. Our next question is: what is commercial agriculture? This is exactly opposite to subsistence agriculture, dear student, where we can write down that commercial agriculture is an agriculture where crops are basically grown for the purpose of sale and earning profit. During this commercial farming, lot of efforts are taken, like irrigation is provided, high quality seeds are used, lot of pesticides and fertilizers are used in order to increase the overall production and earn the profit. This kind of farming is called as commercial farming. Dear students, our next question is: what is shifting agriculture? Please understand, dear student, that shifting agriculture is agriculture in which a farmer selects a piece of land where trees are growing. So he clears the forest, he cut down the forest, or he burns some part of the forest and he grows the crops over there by the natural method without using any of the modern techniques or fertilizer. After 3 to 4 years, when the fertility of the land decreases, he abandons that land and goes and does the same thing at new place by again cutting the plants over there or burning the trees over there. This kind of agriculture is termed as shifting agriculture, and it is mainly carried out in northeastern region as well as the areas where thick forests are found and where the Adivasi people or tribal people are living, especially in Satpura mountain region and in Vindhya mountain region. This type of shifting agriculture is practiced where tribals are living in great number. Dear student, our next question is what is intensive agriculture? Please remember intensive agriculture is a agriculture in which lot of cultivation is done in a small piece of land in order to get maximum income by using irrigation facility, by using high yield variety seed, by using the pesticides, fertilizers, modern techniques, etc., so that the agricultural production increase and crops are grown throughout the year. Variety of crops are grown throughout the year. So in this way, when we do lot of agriculture, too much agriculture in a small piece of land in order to increase the income, that agriculture is known as intensive agriculture. Dear students, our next question is what are the characteristics of Indian agriculture? Characteristics of intensive agriculture. Dear students, the first one is the agriculture is done in a small sized farm and here many fertilizers, pesticides, high yield variety of seeds, irrigation facilities are used in order to maximize the income. They carry out double cropping, multiple cropping also. Third important point, it is done in a country where there is very high population. So we can also use the phrase, it is done in land hungry country. Okay, and dear students, the point number 4 says that in such a places, huge labor force is also used in order to carry out many agricultural activities, and here the labor are available at quite cheap rate because here the population is very high. In intensive agriculture, variety of crops are grown, but the most important crop grown is rice. Okay, it is rice, and other crops include wheat, millets, and pulses. Okay, these are other major crops. Now, dear student, the next question is write in short about the characteristics of extensive agriculture. Now, dear students, please remember this agriculture is done on a very huge farms where the single crop is grown in once a year. Point two, it is done in such a places where population is low and lot of capital is available, lot of money is available. In India, it is mainly done in a Terai region, which is at the foothills of Himalaya mountain in northern part of India. In this agriculture, lot of machines, extensive use of fertilizer, modern tools and implements, and of course the pesticides are done on a very large scale. Here farmers are specialized in growing single crop. But here is one more interesting the characteristic that the per hectare production per person is not very high as population in such a region is comparatively low, and most of the uh, produce from extensive agriculture is for the purpose of sale. Okay, these are the characteristics of extensive farming. Now our next question, dear student, is what is mixed farming? So remember, mixed farming is a farming where animal rearing and agriculture are done together. That means along with carrying out the cultivation, we are also rearing animals. This kind of agriculture is called as what? The mixed type of farming. Now, in this farming, animals like cows, buffaloes, goats, sheep, and poultry are generally kept along with the agriculture, and they provide extra income to the farmer, and in case of crop failure they provide a very important income. So mixed farming assures the farmer that he will definitely have guaranteed income from somewhere. And the last important characteristic, that it is commonly practiced in densely populated region, dear student, and lot of machines and good quality seeds are used in order to increase the income. Our next question, dear students, what are agricultural seasons in India? And name two crops associated with them. Now, in India, we have three agricultural seasons. The first one is Kharif season that goes on from June to September. This is our main agricultural season. The crops that are grown during this time, there are many crops, but important one you can write down here: rice and cotton. Second one is called as Rabi season, okay, where crops are grown during winter time. This period lasts from November to February. Two crops grown here are: one is wheat, second is mustard. These are two major crops. Now the third agricultural season in India is called as Zayad season, and this is also, yeah, spelled this way, and it lasts from March to May, where mainly fruits and vegetables are grown. Okay, in certain areas, groundnut and even rice are grown. Okay, so these are three major agricultural seasons in India. Our next question, dear student, here is: what are the problems of Indian agriculture? Okay, now the first problem: almost 64% of Indian land, almost 64% of Indian land depends upon monsoon, which is erratic, irregular in nature. Therefore, agricultural production suffers badly. Point number two, the land holding in India is small, where use of machines becomes quite difficult. Third problem of Indian agriculture is the farmers who are basically tradition bound. They do not like to accept new changes in farming. Point number four, most of the farmers in India are poor, and therefore they are not very highly educated, and because of that they lack the knowledge of modern techniques in India. One more problem of Indian agriculture is very low per hectare production. Okay, low per hectare, not low, very low per hectare production. Okay, so in this way, I have told you about five problems of Indian agriculture, dear students. If the question is for 2 marks, of course, you will be writing 2 points. And if the question is for 3 marks, you should write down 3 points on this. Next question. Suggest some measures to eliminate the problems of Indian agriculture. Dear students, yeah, one of the steps that is taken by India is to provide price assurance, guaranteed price to the farmer. Second one, India has now adopted green revolution technology, and farmers are given the loans at quite cheap rate so that they can afford pesticides, fertilizer, high yield variety seeds, irrigation facilities. Third point, India has started many agricultural universities to provide better knowledge to the farmers. Then, at many places, the multi-purpose projects are being built on the rivers which provide irrigation facilities to the farmers. Okay, so in this way, we can write down that these are some of the measures. You can add one more here, consolidation of land. It means if a farmer is growing the crops in an area where the land does not belong to him, government gives such a kind of land to the farmer at very cheap rate, and when farmer has a ownership of the land, then he start taking the better care of the land. You can add one more point here is the cooperative farming is now being encouraged where people will grow the crop together because now they are growing crop together. So big piece of land is now available where tools can be implemented, modern machinery can be implemented, and all the farmers can contribute towards the purchasing of high yield variety seeds and irrigation facilities, and income can be shared according to the size of the land. So these are some of the steps that are taken by our country in order to eliminate the problems of Indian agriculture. What are food crops? The answer is food crops are the crops which are basically grown to consume as a main source of energy. For example, you can write here rice, wheat, jawar, bajra. You can also write about maize. Okay, these are some of the examples of food crops. Now in our country there are different sowing method, and what are those sowing methods? So they are broadcasting, dibbling, drilling, and transplantation. These are four major one. Besides that, the other methods of sowing include rating method, rattoning, not sorry, rattoning method, and SETT set method. Okay, rattoning, set method, and you can include one more here, that is clonal planting method. Okay, these are seven different sowing methods used in India. Now, what is broadcasting? State one advantage and one disadvantage of this method. Now, broadcasting basically means scattering the seeds in the farm. Simply go and scatter the seeds randomly. The advantage is it is the fastest method of sowing. Second advantage, it needs very less labor force, and it is very cheap method of sowing. So you can use any one advantage over here. I mean to say, right? And one disadvantage, here there is a lot of wastage of seeds. And point number two, there may be crowding of seeds, and when the seeds fall together, none of them grow properly because they won't get enough of moisture, enough of space, and enough of nutrients to grow. Next question is, what is drilling? State one advantage and one disadvantage. Now, drilling method is a method in which in a well furrowed land the seeds are dropped using a bamboo shaft or using a pipe, and that one is pulled by the bullocks. This method of sowing is known as drilling. Its advantage is the seeds get planted at regular interval, and point number two, because of that, the production of the crop increases because each seed will get enough space, nutrients, and moisture to grow. Disadvantage is that it takes lot of time. Our next question is, what is dibbling? The answer is, here again the seeds are put at the regular interval in a well furrowed field with the help of, means you are going to put the seeds at a regular interval in a well furrowed land. We call this method by the name dibbling. The advantages again same as drilling: enough space for each plant, enough moisture and nutrients. Disadvantage, it is time consuming and it needs lot of labor force. Our next question is, what is transplantation? State one advantage and one disadvantage. Now, transplantation, dear student, is a method of sowing the seeds in which the seeds are sown in a very well prepared bed where lot of manuring is done and seeds are sown properly and irrigated properly. Once the saplings grow there for a period of about 2 to 3 weeks, then the saplings are uprooted and replanted in a farm. This method is called as transplantation. The advantage of this method that it makes sure that the overall production of the crop increases almost 2 times. The disadvantage is it needs a lot of labor force, it is time consuming, and it needs definitely more amount of investment. Okay, so it is costly method of sowing the seed. Now, what is Japanese method of transplantation? So Japanese method of transplantation is again same like transplantation, but here two, three important steps are taken, and one of the steps is very high yielding variety of seed. Example like a japonica seed is used for growing rice. Now this japonica seed or any other HYV seed, okay, they are able to give you the output which is almost 3 times. Another method is that this one matures fast in approximately 95 days. The disadvantage of this process is that again it is time consuming, it is costly, and it needs lot of labor force. Now our next question, dear student, with reference to rice, we have to answer few questions. Temperature requirement of rice. Please remember 16 to 32 degrees Celsius temperature is needed. You now any temperature written between this range, for example 20 to 30, will also be accepted. But be very specific while writing. So if we are more specific, it is definitely good thing. So temperature requirement is 16 degrees Celsius to 32 degrees Celsius. The rainfall required 150 to 300 centimeter, and wherever rainfall is not available, we can always grow the crops with the help of irrigation. So rainfall is 150 to 300 centimeter. In case the rainfall is less, we can use irrigation. Soil needed is fertile alluvial or black soil, which is loamy, means mixture of sand and clay. And if it has a subsoil of clay, it is very well suited for cultivation of rice. Our next question is, what are the name the major rice producing states? The largest producer of rice in India, dear student, is West Bengal, followed by Uttar Pradesh. The other major states include Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and Punjab. Okay, many coastal states also grow the rice on a very large scale. Labor force, it needs lot of labor force for sowing, transplanting, as well as for harvesting, processing of the rice. It need lot of labor force. Now our next question is, name the processes involved in rice cultivation. Dear students, the first process in rice cultivation is harvesting. Now, meaning of the word harvesting is to go and cut the crop. The process number two is called as threshing, where rice ears will be hit hard against the hard surface so that the seeds get removed from the ears of the crop. Otherwise, the animals will be made to trample over the rice, harvested rice, so that the seeds get separated. The next process is winnowing. Winnowing is a process in which rice is separated from chaff and the other material which is mixed with the rice that blows away with wind. Next process is milling, dear students, and during milling process we remove the husk of rice crop, and later on the rice is also polished in order to give it a uh, very bright look and glossy look, and it makes the rice more attractive also. So these are various steps that are involved in cultivation of rice. Now let us look at some of the give reason type of questions based on this topic. Our next question, first question is, extensive farming is not ideal for India. The reason is it is carried out on a very large piece of land, whereas in India we have small land holdings for most of the farmers. In fact, average land holding in India is only 2 hectares, whereas for extensive farming you require 40 to 50 and more hectares of land. Point two, it needs a lot of machines and modern tools and implements, whereas in Indian farming, these tools and implements are not very much possible due to small land holding. Therefore, we can say extensive farming is not ideal for India. Now, mixed farming must be practiced. Answer is, mixed farming is a farming in which animals are reared along with cultivation of crops. In case of crop failure, the income from animals support the farmer, and in case the crop grows well, then the income from animals will definitely add to the overall income of the farmer. Our next question is, land must not be fragmented for carrying out cultivation. That means we should not have the divided land. The reason is, in small piece of land we cannot grow the crop effectively because we cannot use the modern tools and implements. And point number two, during the fragmentation of the land, lot of land is getting wasted. Lot of area is getting wasted when the land is divided. So between the two pieces of land, they make a line where some funds will be made where you cannot grow the crops. Okay, so that is actually causing the wastage of land. Then our next question is, millets and pulses are called dry crops because millets and pulses are grown during rainy season, mainly with the help of rainfall, and they do not require much of irrigation. Therefore we call them by the name dry crops. Our next question is, irrigation is must for our agriculture. The reason, dear student, Indian agriculture is carried out throughout the year, but rainfall in India is only for 4 months. Therefore, irrigation is compulsory. Second point, the Indian agriculture mainly depends on rain, which is erratic in nature. So even during the rainy season time, due to this erratic nature of rain, irregular rain, unevenly distributed rain, irrigation is must. Third important point, irrigation is a must in order to have green revolution technology implemented. And if we implement this technology, the per hectare production and overall production of our Indian agriculture will increase. Therefore, irrigation is must for Indian agriculture. Our next question, dear student, shifting cultivation must be banned because it causes environmental degradation. You can explain here that during shifting cultivation, farmer clears the piece of land by cutting the trees over there and growing the crops, and after 3 4 years he abandons that land and goes to the next area where he again clears the forest. In this way it is dangerous to environment because it is causing deforestation, decreased in rainfall, increased soil erosion, and therefore shifting cultivation must be banned everywhere, not only in India, but everywhere in the world. Next question is, India is known to carry out intensive farming. Intensive farming means too much of farming done in small piece of land. Now, reason why we carry out too much farming, because in India the farm size are small, and in order to maximize the income, farmer needs to carry out intensive farming in order to increase his income as well as to provide the food to ever increasing population of India. Okay, our next question is, Kharif is the main agricultural season. The answer is, Kharif season is the season from June to September mainly. Okay, it may go on up to October also during the main rainy season. India's 64% crops are grown during Kharif season. Therefore, it is our main agricultural season. Our next question, dear student, question number 9. In subsistence agriculture, mainly food crops are grown. The answer for that one is that subsistence agriculture is an agriculture done in order to fulfill the needs of the family. This agriculture is done on a small piece of land without any modern implements or irrigation facility because the farmers are poor. So poor people will definitely grow the crops to first fulfill their food requirement. Therefore, they grow food crops. Our question number 10, dear student, productivity of subsistence agriculture is low. The reason is this agriculture is carried out in a small piece of land by the who are farmers who are poor. In this agriculture, the crops are grown mainly by natural method where little amount of organic fertilizer are used or chemical fertilizer. Irrigation is not provided, and modern machines, modern tools, modern scientific knowledge is not used. Farmers do not have enough of money even to buy pesticides and fertilizers. And because of this, the productivity of this agriculture is low. Our next question is, variety of crops grow in India. The reason is different crops need different climatic and soils conditions. In India, there are many types of soils, mainly 5 types of soils are found, and besides that, in India, there is variety in climatic conditions, variety in uh, physical features, and therefore we have variety of crops grown in India. You can give example that tea crop is grown in hilly areas of Darjeeling where rainfall is heavy, climate is humid, and slopes provide better place for growth of tea crop. Whereas in western coastal area, where it is hot and humid, rainfall is more than 150 centimeter, rice can be grown. So in this way, different climatic conditions, different relief feature and different type of soils are found in various parts of India. Therefore, we find variety of crops grown in India. Our next question, dear students, organic farming must be encouraged. The first statement should be what is organic farming. Okay, so organic farming is a farming that is done with naturally occurring fertilizers like compost, vermicompost, etc. This kind of farming does not cause salination of land, it doesn't cause ill effects, it is definitely hygienic and therefore it must be encouraged because it is also one of the method of conserving our soil. Please remember, organic fertilizers do not have side effects. Okay, they increase the fertility of the land, they increase the soil's capacity to absorb moisture, and they provide naturally occurring nutrients. Therefore, soil does not become saline and becomes more productive. Therefore, we must encourage this kind of. Dear students, our next question is India has become self-sufficient in food grain production. The reason is in India now government is providing loan to the farmers to purchase variety of seeds, to purchase pesticides, fertilizers. Government has started agricultural universities. Government has also started the uh, green revolution technology, and because of all these steps, India's overall food production has increased, and that is why our country has become self-sufficient in food grain production. Our next question is rice grows well in clay-like subsoil. Now remember, clay has a property to hold water, and for rice cultivation, we need flooded farms. So clay is able to hold the water and therefore it grows, rice grows very well in clay-like subsoil. Our next question, dear student, rice is grown in nurseries before transplantation. The reason is in nurseries, excellent soil is used, manuring and irrigation is done from time to time, and best suitable uh, environment is made available for growth of rice in the nurseries. If it becomes very um, sunny, the saplings are taken and put in a shade. In case of the very stormy weather, again the rice bed will be picked up and it will be placed in shade. And as soon as the proper conditions arrive, better environmental condition arrive, the rice bed is again taken to the outside part where it will begin to grow. So in this way, what are we doing? So we are providing most suitable condition, providing shelter to the plant and making them grow, because of which the saplings become very strong, and then when they are replanted by transplanting them, the overall production grows by 2 times. Therefore, the rice crop is initially grown in nurseries. Our next question, dear student, productivity of Indian agriculture is low. Please remember, even though the overall production has increased, but the per hectare production, that means the crop production from every 1 hectare piece of land is not very high because India is having small land holding. Many farmers are still tradition bound and do not like to adopt new methods of agriculture. Third point, they are not having proper knowledge of using pesticides, chemicals, fertilizers, etc. Another reason Indian agriculture mainly depends upon monsoon, which is erratic in nature, and in case of bad monsoon season, the agricultural production also suffers. And Indian farmers are, many of them are poor and cannot afford the new technologies and pesticides and chemical fertilizers. Therefore, the overall productivity of Indian agriculture is low. Now, next question is Green Revolution was introduced in Punjab and Haryana. Remember, irrigation is a prerequisite for Green Revolution. It is must. And in Punjab and Haryana, there is abundant irrigation available because of Bhakra Nangal project and also because of perennial rivers flowing there like river Satluj. Therefore, Green Revolution was introduced in Punjab and Haryana. Our next question, student. Indian farmers are reluctant to use modern farming. Point number one, because they are tradition bound. Point number two, they do not like the changes because they are too much confident about their techniques which they learned from their forefathers. Third important point, which is very important, that Indian farmers, many of them cannot afford the modern means of farming. Therefore, they are reluctant. They are not very eager to use modern means of farming. Our next question, dear student, is though a two-third of population is engaged in agriculture, the share of agriculture is very low. The answer lies in why only one-third of the national income comes from agriculture? Because productivity of Indian agriculture is low. So even though so many people are engaged in agriculture, the productivity is low, therefore income is low. Because their income is low, their share in national income is also low. Our next question is Japanese method is the best method of transplantation. Reasons are in Japanese method, the HYV, meaning high yield variety of seed like Japonica is used. When the rice is grown in nursery, lot of manuring is done, lot of irrigation is done, and best method is provided for the growth. Because of this, the production of rice has increased 3 times. Because of that, it is the best method for cultivation of rice. Okay, students. So in this way, many questions can be framed on this topic, provided you have uh, understood this topic. You can also frame the questions, and of course, you can also answer those questions. Now, differentiate between the following: food crops and cash crops. Answer is very simple. Food crops are grown in order to get the energy from the food, whereas cash crops are grown in order to sell and earn the profit. Food crops, India grows mainly food crops. 70% of crops grown in India are food crops. 30% of crops grown in India are cash crops. Please remember, examples of food crops and cash crops are not considered as the difference between these two. Now, intensive and extensive farming we have studied in detail. But dear student, what I would like you to understand here is that whenever you are writing the answer, you should always underline the keyword. For example, here is higher inputs. So in intensive farming, what are those higher inputs? Like lot of fertilizer, pesticides, irrigation, etc. are used. Whereas in extensive farming, here the one of the most important one is more and more land is brought under cultivation. Now, intensive farming is done where in a land hungry country, means where population is very high, whereas extensive farming is done on a huge piece of land where population is less. Then in this kind of in this intensive farming, per hectare production is very high, whereas in this farming the per hectare production is low. So very high here is a keyword and the low here is a keyword. Okay, students. Now dibbling and drilling. Okay, dibbling is a process where seeds are sown with hand at regular interval in a well furrowed farms, whereas in drilling method the seeds are sown using the bamboo shaft or pipe in well furrowed farm where seeds are dropped at interval. Dibbling is done with hands. Drilling is done with the help of machines as well as the animals like bullocks. Okay, so in this way you can write down any two differences between these. Sometimes 3 mark questions are also asked. Why Japanese method of cultivation is best? Because production increases. How many times, dear student? 3 times we have studied. Advantage is what? That your production will increase 3 times. But the disadvantage, it needs a lot of investment, lot of labor force, and it is also carried out with much efforts. Okay, so that are the three disadvantages. Two disadvantages, sorry. With respect to rice, answer the following questions. Okay, if the questions are asked, answer the following. So what type of question? How much is the temperature requirement? 16 to 32. What is the rainfall requirement? 150 to 300. Third question, largest producer of rice? Answer will be West Bengal. Next question, what is extensive commercial farming? Then you can write down the definition, dear student, which I repeatedly told you while telling about extensive farming. And where in India it is carried out? It is carried out in Terai region in North India. These are the important points. Now, if the question is asked, which crops are grown in such a kind of farming? Please remember rice, sugarcane, and wheat. These are the three major crops that are grown during this time. Our next question is, what are the salient features of Indian agriculture? You can write down, dear student, any 3 points if, because this is a 3 mark question. One of the point that you can write down here is that 64% of Indian agriculture depends on monsoon. Second point, mainly food crops are grown in Indian agriculture. We have studied 70% of our crops are the food crops. Third important point, Indian agriculture provides employment to around 67% people of India. Fourth point, you can write down that per hectare productivity of Indian agriculture is very low. So you can write down, dear students, in this way any 3 points related to the salient features of Indian agriculture, which ultimately means the characteristics of Indian agriculture. Let us look at now some of the name the following type of questions. Now, first question, seeds are sown by scattering of seeds by hand, and it is the simplest method and cheapest one. Name this method. Answer is broadcasting. Question 2, sowing seeds in well furrowed land in a line at a certain gap. This is dibbling as well as drilling, but more appropriate will be dibbling. Question number 3, name the major rice producing state of India. It is West Bengal followed by Uttar Pradesh. Next question, main cropping season of India. It is Kharif season, dear student, followed by Rabi. Next question. Growing saplings initially in a nursery bed and then transferring them to a farm. Name the following. So we call this one by the name transplantation. So in this way, we can have many more questions, but we won't look at so all of them. Okay, you can go through the chapter and you will understand how to answer those questions. Now let us look at some of the multiple choice questions. Okay, now here, dear student, you will have to be very careful before answering. Please remember that you must read all the points. Okay. Now, state which is the largest producer of rice in India. Okay. Tamil Nadu and UP, Maharashtra and UP, West Bengal and Uttar Pradesh, Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. Answer is West Bengal and Uttar Pradesh. So option C. Next question, the characteristic feature which does not apply to cultivation of rice. So do we carry out transplantation? Yes. Does it need lot of sunshine? Of course, yes. Does it need heavy rainfall and flooded field? Yes. Does it need loamy sandy soil? No. It requires clayey soil. So answer is D. This is not the requirement of rice crop. Dear students, our next question is the most wasteful method of cultivation is broadcasting. We have studied that during this process, a lot of seeds just get wasted. The highest yield per hectare of rice is obtained from which of the method? Okay, which of the state highest per hectare rice production? Per hectare means from every 1 hectare. In that respect, Tamil Nadu ranks number 1. Please remember, in overall production, West Bengal ranks first. But in per hectare production, Tamil Nadu ranks first. Our next question is, dash is the measure of the green revolution which has caused increase in production of wheat in India. Okay, green revolution. So what is that? Do they use the high yield variety seed? Yes. Use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides? Yes. Excellent irrigation facilities? Also yes. So these are all the requirements of green revolution. So therefore, answer will be all the above. Our next question is, seeds are sown in March and crop is harvested in May or maybe June. This method is called as Zayed season. Okay, not method. The season is Zayed season, or you can also say the summer season. This Zayed is also spelled as Zaid. So kindly remember this spelling too. Yes, student, our next question is, though India has become self-sufficient in food production, the per hectare production of our crops are very low compared to the developed countries. Why is it so? So in India, the reasons are given: small and fragmented land, yes. Lack of good quality seed and proper use of manure, this is also correct. Erratic rainfall, this is also correct. That means all the above points are correct. So the answer is D. Next question is, dash is not characteristic of extensive farming. So in extensive farming we have large farm. Monoculture means one crop is grown, dear student, only one crop. Multiple cropping, that means more than one crop is grown, that is not done in extensive farming. Low per hectare yield is low, that is true. So the which is not a characteristic. So C, that is multiple cropping, is not a characteristic of extensive farming. So may God bless you, dear students, okay, abundantly, and thank you very, very much. Thank you.